This is the Cool Photo Tools Podcast, episode number 101, January 9th, 2017.
Are you sick of trying to learn all the new photo software? Are you tired of hearing about the next big thing in photography? Well, neither are we. Welcome to Cool Photo Tools with Jay Piersdorf and Rhonda Spencer.
Today's program is brought to you by Skillshare. For a limited time, get 3 months of Skillshare Premium for just 99 cents. Anyone can take an online class, watch video lessons, and create projects. Over 4,000 premium classes. Go to coolphototools.com/Skillshare for your discount code. That's coolphototools.com/Skillshare. Welcome, cool heads. Welcome to a January episode.
That's all, folks.
Welcome, cool heads. Welcome to an exciting January episode in the new year, 2017. Now we can start all over again collecting photo gear.
Yeah, I hear Jay say this all the time, and he amazes me. He has this should be radio announcer voice, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it's excellent.
It's like just out there.
But just on the beginning of the podcast, though.
Yeah.
It's very
When I go
booming.
back to my normal voice,
It
doesn't sound
is.
like that at all. So in the back, we have, and Rhonda just wouldn't wait for her introduction.
I'm
but
sorry.
Rhonda Spencer!
You knew I was here anyway, so.
And back again, kicking and screaming, Justin Haugen.
Can't keep me away.
Tucson photographer. All right. Well, looks like he's got some new toys that he's brought with him this time.
I sure do.
You want to go ahead and talk about those, or do you want to?
Yep.
Okay.
I just got into this new system of flashes. It's been on the market for maybe the last couple years. And so there is a line of speed lights and strobes from a company called Godox. They are a Chinese manufacturer, and they have a whole family of flashes that all operate off of a few different remotes that they have. And so there are 4 or 5 different model flashes that they have, and also several different strobes. And the cool thing is, well, Flashpoint is another rebrand of this product on the market from the
Adorama.
the retailer Adorama. And so they've rebranded these flashes. They still exist in the Godox family. In fact, if you own Godox products and you have Godox remotes and you buy Flashpoint flashes, you can operate all those flashes off the same remote. So they are interchangeable between all their rebrands. So it doesn't exclude you from picking up one on a good deal from another retailer like Adorama. And so what's really cool about these products, and I'll start with the speedlight, work my way to the strobe, and show you the transmitter. I invested in this system of speedlights. This is the lithium ion, the R2, the Zoom lithium ion R2 with TTL. It's a Nikon compatible flash. They also have it in Canon and Sony, I believe.
Yep.
And what's neat about this flash is it has a lithium ion battery, the size of 4 AA's put together. So no more AA batteries, either disposables or rechargeable batteries. I'm only using these lithium ion battery packs that have 2,000 milliamps worth of power. They're good for, I think they're rated for 500 full power flash pops with a faster recycle time. And now when I'm done with the wedding day, and actually I could probably shoot a couple weddings with these without having to recharge them, versus using, in a wedding day, I'll go through 2 sets of AA batteries per flash if I'm shooting pretty heavily. And so the cool thing about this flash is that I have 2 more just like it, and you can set them to different groups, and you can use this trigger to control the power of each flash, or you can disable the flash. So if I've got like a 3 light setup going on during a wedding, I can tell which flashes to be on or off, and at what power level do I need those flashes. So it's a really neat way to work with off-camera flash very efficiently. And in the, I want to say the old days, I've been doing this 11 years. It's not very old, but the flashes had to be connected to a pocket wizard on a umbrella stand, and you'd have to go over to the light, manually change the flash power, and it was a big pain in the butt. So if you had a light up on a stand 10 feet up in the air and you needed to change that power because you decided, oh crap, I need less power or more power, you have to walk over, bring that light down, change the power, bring it back up, walk back over, and then decide if you set the power to the right power, if it's going to work for you. So now I don't have to do that anymore. I can do it from where I stand with the remote and change the power on these things remotely. Any flash in the group, I can do it. So it's a really neat system.
So typically you'd use this, you'd have what, three or more flash units, and then you can change them all from the little remote sensor on the back of your camera.
Yep. You can change, so you can have multiple channels. So I can have 1 through 32 channels. And so like in my particular usage, I'll have them all set to the same channel. And then you can have multiple groups. So I could have group A through E, and I can have as many flashes on each group. So if I had 3 A flashes and I change the power on that A group, all those flashes in that group will now be reset to the power that I set it to. I can do the same for each group of flashes. So I only work with 3 flashes, A, B, and C. And so if I need to change A, B, and C, I do it from the remote. I can cycle through the groups and change their settings.
Okay. That can get confusing, sounds like.
It can. You're managing a lot of technology, and that's where I think we start to scare off beginners, because the idea of like, how do I track, how do I know what flash is what? I've got a little bit of a low-tech solution. I take Gold Sharpie, and I just write the letter A in big letters all over the flash. So no matter where I'm at, I can readily identify that that's an A, B, or C flash, because there is no other way.
That's actually really smart.
That's a good idea.
And it rubs off. So I mean, I can't imagine it'll affect resale value if someone didn't like it, but it's very effective for my needs.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the things that intimidates new off-camera flash users. Is that how do you manage all these lights? How do you know what each one is supposed to do? It's a lot more simple than it used to be when we were using radio or pocket wizards and Canon speed lights on top of the Canon solution was terrible. You had to have it sit
line of sight.
Yeah, well, and I'm talking about using it off camera with the trigger. You had to have it sit on a hot shoe adapter that connected to the trigger. So the trigger or the remote would send a signal to the hot shoe of the flash. So it had to sit on top of that, on top of an umbrella adapter, whereas Nikon flashes have a PC sync cord connection built into the flash. So you could go from the trigger remote straight into the body of the flash, not to the foot of the flash via an adapter. It was really messy. I've had several fall off and break the foot of the flash because it was a really poor connection point. You shouldn't be putting that much weight and stuff on top of that little cute adapter hooked up to your umbrella holder. So.
Yeah, you'd think that they would, on the pro level cameras, that they would just build this in, just build in a way to control flashes remotely, and you wouldn't have to have extra stuff. But they didn't ask me.
They have with Nikon. Nikon's got that system built into their cameras, the D500 and the, actually, I think my D750 does it, but the D5, you can remotely control the flashes through their creative lighting system, the CLS system. But I think the new ones are radio controlled. The other, when I with my D750, it's a line of sight issue. Oh. I think it's infrared. But with the D500 and D5, you can remotely control Nikon SB5000 flash via wireless controller from the camera. So no triggers on your camera, which that's how it should be for every system. That's where but maybe they won't do that. I don't know if it'll affect. Well, I think that'll be commonplace. That should be where the industry's headed with these cameras, at least if they want to win back some of the off-camera flash market that they've lost to third-party brands like Godox and Youngyo.
Yeah. Well, and then of course it also makes you wonder though of what percentage of their users actually use off-camera flash. Maybe it's not that big.
Perhaps.
Maybe it's pretty little. I don't know.
Well, I think there's one thing like a company like Magmod has shown is how much support they've gotten from off-camera flash users.
True.
There's a lot of us out there. So I'd like to think that Canon and Nikon could earn back that market they've lost, because I'd rather use a system like this where one controller controls all the flashes. It's very easy to use. And if they built that into the Canon or Nikon cameras, I would reconsider that. I would rather do it from the camera and not have to deal with the transmitter if I could help it.
Yeah, because you've got all these potential failure points with everything you had on there. So
exactly. And so the other thing I want to mention about this system is not only does the speed light work off this remote, I've got this really cool Flashpoint Xplor 600. It's a 600 watt second standalone strobe with a lithium-ion battery pack built into it. So I can take this out to the field, use it like a mobile studio anywhere I go. And how I used to do it is I have an Einstein from Palsy Buff with a Vagabond Lithium Extreme battery pack that attaches to the light stand. It's really heavy.
Heavy, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big production, but it was an effective way to get studio strobe power in the field. Well, now these batteries on this flash are rated for, I think it's 600, maybe 500 full power flash pops versus like the ProPhoto B1 has 220 full power flash pops. So this thing can really power your photo shoot, maybe even 2 or 3 before you have to charge the battery, because I don't typically shoot full power anyway unless it's broad daylight. So this strobe features TTL, and it also features high-speed sync. So if I change the shutter speed to over the max sync speed on the flash, this will automatically go into a high-speed sync mode where it pops off more than one flash throughout the duration of the shutter, so you can actually shoot above your max sync speed. So what's cool about that is in broad daylight, I can shoot at like f1.8 at 1/4000th of a second shutter speed and get great creamy background bokeh and introduce a strobe light into the photo.
Yeah, I think most of the Godox and the Flashpoint, they're capable of high-speed sync. For those of you who haven't used this yet, it's a method that if the flash supports it, it lets you use the very fast shutter speed, so you can darken daylight in relationship to the output that your flash puts in. Again, a very professional technique that can really make your pictures look pretty impressive. Now, speaking of the Godox and the Flashpoint, which are the same unit, you were just talking about the large model that you have on the table there. And here's an article from Petapixel. Robert Hall is the author of this, and it's "You Don't Get What You Pay For: $700 Godox 8600 versus $2,100 ProPhoto B1." So there, the gist of this article essentially is that the ProPhoto does have some advantages. That for the extra money, there's some things like color that is more consistent over multiple flashes on the ProPhoto. But on the other hand, if you take a look down here, I'll link to this article in the show notes so you can take a look at it. For the money difference, it's the Godox or the Flashpoint puts up a pretty darn good fight, and in some instances even surpasses the ProPhoto on some of their things there. So, okay, I'm just saying that's a pretty good way to go. If you don't have if you're starting out or you don't have that much cash, to get rolling with, you don't have to. There's our alternatives, and the Godox Flashpoint stuff is really, really pretty good.
So Rob's a photographer I talk to pretty often. He is really into education and showing other photographers how to use this equipment, and he's fully invested in this Godox system. He has the speed lights and the Explorers. He has a lot of this gear, and he went so far as to pick up a B1 from a friend and do this comparison of the two products and show some of it on his YouTube channel. So he's got a great YouTube channel. If you look him up, probably you can get there from his website.
Yeah, we can link to that.
Yeah, and he shows a lot of the great features of this versus the B1. And the thing about the B1 is ProPhoto is a long time industry standard for professionals, and it's the top echelon of lighting equipment in our industry, along with like Broncolor, for example. And the B1 was one of the first to market to feature the built-in battery, although it wasn't exclusive. Another Chinese manufacturer had the built-in battery for their strobes too, so they weren't the first to do it, but it became probably the most widely known studio-style strobe that you could take out in the field because it had a battery built into it, also offering TTL and high-speed sync. And it's 500 watt seconds versus the Godox, the Xplor 600, having 600 watt seconds. And the thing about the B1 that makes it an industry standard is the support is unparalleled for this product. If you buy the B1 and invest in the B1 in the ProPhoto system, you have you have ProPhoto reps that you can contact for service and support. You can send it off to have it repaired. I always hear that they're indestructible. If you drop one off a light stand, which I hear happens a lot because they're a little heavy, that that they take a lot of punishment and still keep working. So the build quality is very key to that product. Versus the Flashpoint or the Godox Xplor here, I have a photographer in our Learning Delight Facebook group who shared a picture of one that fell down because he had a big octobox on it in the field, and the wind. He turned around for 1 second when he took off a sandbag, and the wind took it right down, and he broke the top part of it. There's like a piece of plastic here that came off the top of it and exposed a little bit of wires. It didn't look like it survived the fall very well. It's still working, but cosmetically it's taken a big beating. And I think that's one comparison point to note, is that the B1 is built like a tank. This is primarily plastic, although it does feel very substantial. It's heavy. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's very well made for the money, but I also take great care in how I work with these products and hoping that I make it last a long time. I've never had a strobe fall to the ground because either someone's going to hold it for me or I'm going to sandbag it appropriately. So, yeah, good thing to note. The build quality on those B1s is important, and the support is great. Mm-hmm. So if you need support on these Godox, if you buy Godox, you're pretty much out of luck. You're not going to be able to get it repaired. I think I heard Cheetah might be doing some repairs on these, but if you buy Godox from Amazon and you're past the return period, and I don't know if they even offer a 1-year warranty. Maybe you can get a replacement through Amazon via the manufacturer, because you're dealing with Chinese dealer direct. You're getting it from the manufacturer from China. The best way to go about it, I would think, would be to buy the Adorama Flashpoint system, because Adorama offers much better support. They're an American-based company in New Jersey, and should you need any support for these products, that'd be the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and from Amazon you can get they have an extended warranty that you can purchase, which will often just amount to they'll replace it. Instead of actually, I doubt that there's probably any repairs, from some of the Chinese imported stuff. But if you can get, if you're clumsy and you think about it, well, then maybe get that little extended warranty and get it replaced if you need to.
Yeah, and another thing to note about the ProPhoto system is that remote only works with the B1. I don't know if it works with the B2, if it's the same controller for the B2 system. I think people do use them together, B1 and B2. The B2 is like a smaller head, 300 watt second. It's almost like a speed light kind of thing, but it's a much lighter portable system than the B1. And when you're working with the Godox Flashpoint, is we have this one remote to control their family of speed lights and their strobes. We don't have that with ProPhoto. If ProPhoto had a speed light, I would be very intrigued with that system, because I think I would buy that.
That's a good point. Okay, Rhonda, what's on your list? Anything?
Well, since we're talking about Chinese, let's go ahead and talk about Venus Lens.
Okay.
Because they just put out a new lens. They're actually getting pretty good on putting out several new lenses. Remember, they started out with the first one, and everybody was kind of like, oh, I don't know. And they've just continued on down.
Yeah, so, they've had some...
and they've had some really good lenses. So this is their 105.
And you have their 14?
I have it's 15, isn't
15.
it? Is it?
I don't.
I'll have to look.
The one that's also a macro that's
yes,
tilt shift and
yeah,
pretty wacky.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. They have wide angle macro. In other words, you can actually focus this touching the front element on the glass. That's how, and it gives a very odd look. But this is their newest lens, and touting it about a little bit better than $700.
Yeah, these flashes or these lenses don't have autofocus, do they?
No, they do not.
Only.
Yes, yeah, but they make a nice substantial product. When I first bought my first one that came out of China, it took a long time to get here. I said it was on a slow boat from China because I invested in a lens that I had never seen before and no one else had. Mm-hmm. But it was interestingly enough that I thought, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Somewhere between this, if I would like to actually get this lens, their new wide angle that has zero distortion. Mm-hmm. This is a super wide.
This is the 12 millimeter f2.8, but no autofocus.
No autofocus.
Probably not as critical with a wide angle.
Definitely.
But this one has absolutely, or I should say, very little distortion.
Shooting with that was it a 100 f2? That'd be great portrait lens, but at f2 at that focal length, the focal plane is very thin, and you can very easily undershoot your focus area. So if you're trying to focus on someone's eye, from like 10 feet away on a headshot or a portrait, you might front or back focus if you're not too good of a sharpshooter there with your focus. But there's some great cameras, like the Sony mirrorless system has focus peaking. So working with manual focus lenses on a mirrorless system is a lot easier than working with it on your optical viewfinder on a DSLR, so you can pull it off better.
On mine, what I end up doing is I go to live view, and live view will let you pick any focus point and come down to it and know that you actually have it. But this shows how nice this is. I mean, they've come out with some really, really good lenses. We just don't know how to say the company name other than Venus Lens.
Yeah. We haven't got any, nobody else does either.
No, so. Because there it is.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I came across this article the other day, and this is from Jeff Cable Photography on his blog, jeffcable.com. And this is something I know we've talked about before, but sometimes this might bear repeating. And this article is why you should not delete images on your memory card using your camera and other memory card tips. And the reason, that what he's referring to is, don't browse the images that you've taken on your camera and then, that one's out of focus, and hit the delete button. And then you browse a few more and go, I don't like that one. And you look at a few more and you're like, hit the delete there, trying to make extra room on your memory card. But that, he makes the point that cameras, are pretty good at what they do, but they're not computers. And so they don't do the memory management just perfectly all the time on your memory card. So the preferred thing to do, and I'll link to this in the show notes so that you can take a look at this article, but the preferred thing to do is to format the card after you're done with it. So format it in the camera, and if it's, don't worry about those pictures, don't delete them, unless you're in a dire situation where your memory card is completely full, and you have no other choice. I don't know why you would get in that situation. You should have some extra memory cards, but don't mess with it. Just, shoot it as is, transfer it to your computer, delete the ones on your computer later that you don't want, and then reformat your memory card every time that before you take it, before you put it back in your camera.
And he said, format it in the camera and not on the computer.
Right. Because again, your computer is a computer and your camera is not quite a computer.
And the other note is if you have two different cameras, like where I have the 5D Mark II and the 5D Mark III, is to format it for that camera every time you use it, instead of just pulling it out and shoving it in.
Yes.
And I feel like it's not really worth your time to be culling in your camera anyway and removing poor photos. There's so many great culling tools now. I mean, you can do it from Lightroom, but have you talked about PhotoMechanic on the show before?
No, have we?
No.
We talked about that, Rhonda? I don't think we have.
Cool. I'll show you this great piece of software.
Okay.
It'll make your life, it'll give you back hours of your life.
Well, there you go. That's what we need.
and so when
Does it mean I get to go back to 20?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's an essential piece of my workflow to help me cull photos, rate and cull photos, and ingest photos quickly. And so what I do when I'm done with a wedding is that I've got 4,000 to 5,000 images from a whole day of shooting, and I want to whittle that down and pick maybe the best 400 to 600 images from the wedding day. And what's great about this software is in its image previewer, when you can view from a thumbnail mode to see all the photos that you've taken, and you can then go into a preview panel, and you can rate images very quickly. And the best part about it is if you're ever using Lightroom and you do 100% zoom, say you want to check for sharpness on an eyeball or the beak of a hummingbird, for example, you want to check for that sharpness. If you're anything like me, I'm neurotic about sharpness. You can hit the Z key on the keyboard and it will 100% preview that image. And what it's doing is it's loading a JPEG preview that's like a sidecar. I think it's built into the RAW file. And for some reason, PhotoMechanic does this, but Lightroom does not. And so I can instantaneously view 100% preview, a zoom of the image to check for sharpness, and then hit the Z key to return back to normal view. And then what I do is I assign a rating to the image. I give it a number 1 rating if I'm going to keep it. So I work the Z and the 1 key on my keyboard. And I also set the software up so whenever I assign a rating to an image, it will auto advance. So once I pick a picture, I go to the next picture and I use the scroll wheel on the mouse to navigate through the photos very quickly. So I'm making very snap judgment decisions about which photos I'm keeping and comparing photos back and forth very rapidly with PhotoMechanic. And we did a little breakdown of how long it took to load full previews of an image when you're looking at it in Lightroom versus how quickly it is done in PhotoMechanic. And we figured out over the course of a year, over like 20, 30 weddings, you could earn back 40 hours of your life waiting for previews to load in Lightroom.
Yeah,
so,
it is slow.
Yep. And so I do my culling before I bring it into Lightroom. And then once I make my selections, you can actually remove all the unrated images from your grid view, your thumbnail view, and then select all your selected images and drag and drop them into the library module of Lightroom. It'll bring up the preview panel and it will have all your selected images already checkmarked for import. Very seamless, easy to use, and bring it into Lightroom.
And this is about $150. Looking at it here on the website, and works with both Mac and Windows. So.
And I know a lot of photographers who use this. I highly recommend it. It's worth twice that much in money for the time that I get back on culling.
Yeah, time's money, and especially I'd say the more you do, the more valuable this would become. The more images that you shoot per week. Yep,
and there's a 30-day free trial on their website, so you can try it out before you buy it.
Gotta like that. So speaking of Lightroom, did you see there's a new version out? This has been a couple weeks ago now, but Lightroom 2015.8. How come we're not catching up to 2016?
I don't get it.
Yeah. It's almost 2017 now. Anyway, so they've added some new. They've added a work reference view to it. Don't know if I think that's all that exciting or not, but they added that, and then they added support for some new cameras as well. But while I was looking at the Lightroom stuff, I found something else to spend money on here. And let's see if I can, let me locate it here real quick.
I didn't even know that Lightroom didn't already have that feature built in.
Which feature?
The comparison view, the reference view. I thought it already had it. I had no idea. That was news to me.
Here it is. Okay, so this is the thing I was looking at here. This is a controller for Lightroom from a company called Tangent.
Oh, you were looking at the same thing I've been looking
at. And look, I don't care what it controls. Look how slick that is. I want one of those.
I know, it's just cool looking, huh? It would look great on your desk.
It's from the future.
It is. And in fact, this is the Ripple controller here. This is the little one, but they make a big one here. Let me see if I can find...
well, flip over to my site. You can see it.
Rhonda's got it already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Is that not like the coolest?
Yeah. That's so those of you that are listening on your podcast blaster that don't have the video, if you're not on our YouTube channel, we're looking at a controller here from this company called Tangent, and it's for Lightroom, but they also make it for Premiere Pro, as well. You can control the video application stuff, and it's got these big red kind of, they like track balls in them. Is that, and then it's dark gray and some really nice looking buttons, and
it just looks slick.
It's just really cool.
It looks like you're going to DJ a party there.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
You can launch a spaceship. I mean, it's really. Like I say, I get me two. I don't care what it controls. Just want it on my desk. It looks really slick. And so I looked over here at B&H has these, bnhphotovideo.com.
And so does Adorama. I've got them on Adoramas.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's fight then.
All right. We'll see.
Which is it universal to any software title, or is it meant to work with like Lightroom or Capture One?
Yeah, it's pre-programmed for like DaVinci Resolve, Lightroom, and Adobe Premiere Pro. But you can also program it yourself. You can add features to whatever software that you want. Let's see here. Let's look at Rhonda's site here. Okay, so the big one with all the consoles. The Tangent Elements Panels Kit is $3,320.25 on B&H. And how much is it on, let's buy from Adorama. It's $3,154 from Adorama. So that's a big chunk of change.
It is.
I don't know.
But it's awfully cool
I was hoping
looking.
it'd be cheaper than that.
Wouldn't you like to just play with one, though?
$50 or something.
Yeah, I'd like to see it in action.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, this is something, and I think, and I was thinking, well, maybe it's just because I'm old that I miss analog controls, instead of having all these digital controls and cameras are really bad about this, where one button does 4 different things depending on where the other button is set, does 12 things depending on where it is in the menu. Like, just give me a button. Just give me one button that does one thing.
Yeah. And plus I think you have better control if you have a small knob that you're just slowly moving into what you're wanting it to do, as opposed to trying to manipulate with a mouse.
Well, I think the more editing you had to do, the more valuable this would become to you. But maybe just me.
The thing I encounter that really gets monotonous is editing becomes a menial task. I become this low functioning human being when I do it, and I can just I have 3 monitors. So left one is Netflix, right one is Facebook, and in the middle is work. And yeah,
and you have them all at once.
Yeah, it gets really monotonous. Adjusting sliders over 500 images, and it takes a big part of my day to do it. And you tend to get a little bit of a task fatigue, muscle fatigue. I get tired of doing the same movements with my mouse hand, and there's some other tools out. I'll have to bring it for another visit. Like I have this device called the Palette Gear, and it's a modular magnetic setup with sliders and knobs, sliders, buttons, and dials on it. And what I like about that is when I'm really tired of the monotony of doing it one way, I can go over and kind of break up some of that fatigue and do something a little more tactile. And it's actually got some really great advantages to doing things, certain movements very quickly. So I like that tactile response and to break up the menialness of what I'm doing and give it some different input. Give some different muscle input to my body and not have to be doing all the same thing on the mouse.
So are you using that just kind of on and off to switch off, so you're not using it all the time? Or
if I'm working from home, it's not something I can easily bring with me to like a coffee shop. I often work on location on my laptop. And
I guess my question is it your preferred device when you use Lightroom? Is that what you go to, or you think, maybe today, maybe not?
It's kind of a maybe today thing, but there's some things it does well. If most of my photos are consistent, I'm only adjusting a few sliders, I will easily work on the Palette Gear and go advanced photo to photo and correct things with the Palette Gear. It definitely has a speed advantage for certain functions.
Now that can be customized for other products as well, right? So
Premiere, Photoshop, any piece of software you can.
So are you using it just with Lightroom, or?
I've been using it in Premiere too. You can help advance the timeline with it and pause and play. There's some undo, redo. There's some features. I still haven't tapped into all the functions of it, but I'd love to bring it in sometime and show you how it works. It's pretty neat.
Absolutely. Well, you know what time it is, you guys.
Wow, we blasted through that one fast.
Yeah, it's just been another speed episode of Cool Photo Tools. We've just talked our way through it again. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Justin, for coming in. Justin Haugen, our guest photographer, coming in from Tucson, all the way from Tucson. Welcome. And Rhonda Spencer, always a pleasure.
All right.
And we will see
next week.
Everybody next week.
All right.
Thanks again.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Cool Photo Tools podcast. Sign up for our mailing list at coolphototools.com. Got a question? Send an email or MP3 audio file to info@coolphototools.com. Thanks for listening.